Lots to talk to you about. Let's talk about, first of all, your area of responsibility right now as Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary. We've got a new prisons white paper. It follows on from that drugs announcements yesterday from the Prime Minister and others. You want to tackle drugs behind bars. I have to say, an awful lot of people would wonder how we can tackle drugs at all in this country if we can't even take them out of the hands of prisoners.
Absolutely, which is why we're taking the action we are. As well as building 20,000 extra prison places by the mid-2020s, we'll be changing the regime, innovating, using technology. One of the big changes will be the use of the X-ray body scanners, which have got an incredibly high level of detection rate of any contraband coming into prisons, drugs, knives, mobile phones. And that it creates the space for us to use prison, which is a place for incarceration and punishment, but also to try and get offenders off the drugs. They'll have an early assessment. They'll have the option for more absence-based treatment rather than just relying on opiate substitutes, more access to prison drug recovery units where they can go clean and get off their dependency. And then there's a whole piece of work we're doing around skills, numeracy and literacy and work in prisoners. And what we're saying, and I'm going up to HMP ISIS to see a brilliant governor, Emily Thomas, and looking at some of the trailblazing governors and trying to incentivise them and giving them more autonomy when they're the highest performing prison. And we'll have KPIs and league tables so that we can really drive up performance across the whole prison estate. The whole aim of this is to cut reoffending, cut crime and protect the public.
Okay, well, unfortunately for you, Mr. Raab, on the day that you are promoting this new, very worthwhile policy, we've got the evidence of a whistleblower from the Foreign Office where you used to be in charge. This is a Raphael Marshall, 25-year-old desk officer, who was among those who were trying to deal with getting people out of Afghanistan when we saw Kabul fall to the Taliban. He claims that at times he was pretty much the only person sitting in in Whitehall trying to process this. He claims that there were up to 150,000 different requests for assistance. At times, emails were open just so they could say they'd been opened. They weren't actually read or acted on. And there was a work from home culture, which meant that people, they just clock off at home, didn't come into the office, and there was no sort of round the clock effort to get these people that we had promised safety to. We had promised these Afghan interpreters to get them out. What is your response to the evidence that Raphael Marshall has given?
Well, I'm afraid I don't accept that characterisation, and it's flawed in a range of respects. There are over 1,000 Foreign Office staff working on the crisis response in London, obviously on a rota system, people working all hours of the day. In relation to the process, it was inherently difficult, but less because, if I can say, less because of the challenges in London, although there were some, more because of the volume of undocumented claimants coming forward and the need to verify the facts of their eligibility, both to make sure that seats on flights were going to those at the greatest risk, but also to make sure that we weren't bringing anyone home that would present a threat to this country. And notwithstanding all of those pressures, we delivered in just 2 weeks the evacuation of 15,000 people out of Afghanistan, the biggest operation of its scale in living memory, and more than any other Western country, perhaps with the exception of the United States.
There's no doubt, we were able to get a lot of people out. There were also a lot of people who were left behind. Some of those will undoubtedly have been murdered by the Taliban. You know that, and I know that. You say 1,000 staff were working in London. Many of the staff who work at the Foreign Office will live in London. Were 1,000 staff at any one time working in the office in Whitehall on this?
No, that wouldn't have been the case because, of course, you'd have a rota system. But equally, the idea...
When you say a rota system, so there were people working 8-10-hour shifts? Were people working through the night on different shifts or not?
Yes, we had a 24/7 operation, and the London operation was not just the Foreign Office staff. It's right to pay tribute to the Home Office officials, the MOD officials working with that team, because, of course, the claims coming through were not just nationals wanting to come home, which were the consular responsibility of the Foreign Office, but you also had the special cases. You also had the Arab scheme, the Afghans that worked for us. So it was a joint effort through that crisis centre, a cross-Whitehall effort, linked up very closely to the operation on the ground. But I think the problem with the charge that is being levelled is first of all, that it is dislocated from the operational realities on the ground. Second of all, that of course, I think Julie would be asking me a lot of different questions if we hadn't worked through a process to verify the eligibility of anyone that came forward with a claim, both to make sure that the people that we wanted to protect were getting on those flights, but also to make sure that we weren't putting the UK at risk by putting the wrong people on those flights.
I know dozens of people I have spoken to who are each dealing with many other people who have said they've never received a single reply to any emails they've sent in to the Foreign Office and not had a single reply. We know that this man is claiming that many were simply opened and not replied to. I've always been of the view in these scenarios, same with the Home Office and other departments, a new minister who comes in, who's in charge, you don't get to change the entire culture of a whole Whitehall, long-established government department straight off. You being on a holiday or not being on holiday is not necessarily going to be the difference between whether or not a job is done or not. How much say did you, as the Foreign Secretary, as opposed to the Permanent Secretary, who, by the way, was also on holiday and went on holiday when there was already a crisis, how much say did you have over the number of staff available to work and how much work they were doing and how many hours they worked? Did you have any say in any of that?
Yeah, of course. And
so you could direct those people. Did you say to everyone, sorry guys, you're all on overtime, I need 12-hour days?
So, Julia, first of all, I checked in regularly with Nigel Casey, the director for Afghanistan in the Foreign Office, who's giving evidence to the Select Committee, that we were properly resourced, and also, as well as being properly resourced and people working hard, and frankly, some of the suggestions in the interviews I've done this morning, I had one interviewer suggest that people were lazy. I'm afraid I just can't accept that characterization, because during an operational crisis, you've got to also have the stamina to see things through. So it's quite right to have a rota. But ultimately, I would point you to the 15,000 people evacuated in just 2 weeks. The fact that we'd never done anything in recent memory on this scale, and also that no one other than the US got that many people out. Yes, there'll be lessons to be learned. It's right that a Select Committee will look at this. But I think the effort by those on the ground in Afghanistan, but also those manning the Emergency Crisis Centre, Foreign Office, Home Office and MOD staff did a very strong job in incredibly difficult conditions, most of which arose on the ground in Afghanistan, particularly around Kabul.
The specific allegations regarding Pen Farthing and getting out his pet dogs of veterans, there is a real lot of anger at the idea that the government at some point prioritised getting dogs out over getting people out, and was spending time dealing with the admin for that at the behest of the Prime Minister's wife, Carrie Johnson, who's an animal rights activist. Is that true?
That's simply not true. Of course, we prioritise human life over the animals.
And dogs did get out, and humans didn't.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. The challenge for individuals getting out of the country was not the capacity on planes, or certainly not solely that. The problem, the big two challenges, as I've explained earlier, are one, verifying the eligibility of any individuals coming forward. We had a huge number. There's a big rush for the door as the Taliban took over, making sure that the people that we wanted to protect, that were eligible to be protected, were protected, making sure also that we didn't allow people on who might present a threat. Julia, you would have been the first to quite rightly ask questions if we had not been conducting those checks as swiftly and as effectively as we could.
Okay, I want to ask you also about things closer to home, but further away in time. The Christmas party at Number 10 on the 18th of December. You were asked about this on the Sunday shows, and you said if there was a formal party held, of course, that's something that's clearly contrary to the guidance. London was in Tier 3. People were not allowed to meet for social gatherings, even two people. We understand there were 40 or 50. Numerous people have now confirmed this event took place. There were WhatsApp messages about it. There was a round-robin email. People brought in Secret Santa gifts. People brought in food and drink. The party happened. It appears the Prime Minister was not at the party, but the party happened in Number 10. Should someone lose their job over this?
I'm sorry, I don't accept that. Number 10 has been very clear. There was no party. The COVID rules were respected throughout.
They've said the COVID rules were respected throughout, but they have actually not denied there was a party.
Number 10 have, and I can affirm that today.
I think there's a question mark over what you call a party. I think if there's alcohol and food and people have brought Secret Santa gifts, I think most people listening would call that a party.
You're entitled to ask yourself whatever question you like, Julia. I'm telling you.
What would you call that?
Well, look, it's not my job to respond to hypothetical questions. What I'll do is respond
It's
to
not a
the actual
hypothetical
question.
question.
Well, it is.
Numerous witnesses have come forward to various different newspapers and said that this event took place. They were at the event. They saw the WhatsApp messages. They saw the emails. They were there. They brought their Secret Santa gifts. What would you call an event with a large group of people who work together, meeting up with drink, with food, exchanging Secret Santa gifts of an evening? What would you call that?
Julia, there was no party, and the rules were respected at Number 10 throughout.
How could the rules have been respected, given that the rules quite clearly stated in Tier 3, as London was in at the time, that no gatherings of more than 2 or 3 people, or even 2 people were allowed, unless they were you were in a bubble, or unless it was for only specifically work purposes and was absolutely necessary, unless we think that exchanging Secret Santa gifts is absolutely necessary for work?
Julie, you're presenting me another. I was on Media Round on Sunday, range of unsubstantiated, anonymous claims. All I can be is categorical with you based on what Number 10 has clearly said. There's no party and the rules were respected throughout.
If you were invited to such an event, whether we called it a party or not, when we were in Tier 3, would you have attended it?
I would not have attended and didn't attend any parties. But look, allow me not to answer hypothetical questions. You said to me earlier you weren't doing that. I appreciate you're free to ask any question you like, but I've just given you the facts.
No one's accusing you of being at the party or having any responsibility for it, but you do know there are millions of people in this country who are absolutely furious about this. They include me. I had to cancel my daughter's birthday party. My family all spent Christmas separately because of the rules, because people obey the rules, people are law-abiding citizens, and it would appear, and you can call it hypothetical, there are enough witnesses to this. I don't know anyone who thinks this didn't happen and wasn't a party. The people in Number 10 thought the rules didn't apply to them. People are angry about this. Do you understand why people are angry?
Look, of course, I understand the frustrations. We've had to, as a family, I've had to cancel things, and of course I understand the frustration. But Julie, you're still hunting around in circles on this, and the point I'm making to you is that there was no party. Number 10 has been very clear about that, and the rules are respected throughout. And at the moment, all you're presenting is the usual litany of anonymous, unsubstantiated claims. If there was a substantiated on-the-record claim with actual facts presented, then it would be a different story.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you when we've got that. Really appreciate you joining us, Dominic Raab.